Hi, everybody, and welcome to this conversation about this incredible film, this documentary, Nazarene. I'm Josh Groban. I'm a singer, a songwriter, and film lover. I am delighted and honored to be moderating this conversation about the film, about the song, How Can I Tell You, which was written for the film that is so beautiful and so beautifully represents the story of Nazarene. And so as we dive into this rather informal conversation, I'm delighted to be joined by some incredible people who have made this film and song come to life. My dear friend, I'll start with, somebody that I've known a very, very long time. I'll let her help me tell the story of how we met and all of the things that we've done together on stage. My friend Angelique Kidjo is here joining us from Paris, who is the brilliant, brilliant singer of the song, How Can I Tell You? And she is just somebody that I've admired my entire life. And it's been a dream of mine to know her, to work with her, all of the work that she's done, not only to bring her music, her style to the world from Benin and beyond, but the activism and the work that she's done to raise awareness for human rights causes around the world. Angelique, thank you so much for joining us here today. And as well as the composer and lyricist for How Can I Tell You, Stephen Flaherty and Lynn Ahrens are here as well. Stephen and Lynn, where are you joining us from? Oh, there you are, Stephen.
Okay, excellent. Yes, I'm in Mexico. So
You're in Mexico?
I'm on the west coast. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm at the Pacific Ocean, and I saw a whale this morning, which is always a great way to start a day. So it was excellent.
Wow. I'm in LA, and I just saw a trash truck just came by and bumped one of my cans. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, same.
And I'm in upstate New York, and a deer just ate the rest of my birdseed over there or something. So I don't know.
We're getting closer. We're getting closer. Well, that's wonderful. I love this song so very, very much, and I want to talk about the song, and I want to talk about how you came about to writing it and bringing it into the world of the film. But first, I also want to introduce, speaking of the film, the incredible director, producer, Jeff Kaufman, and his wife, producer and casting director, who we met a long time ago, Marcia Ross. So thank you, Jeff and Marcia, for joining us as well. My first thoughts, first of all, about the film are just, as every great documentary does, I found this film to be so riveting, so important. The footage was so on the inside. I mean, this was a film that I'm not sure could have been made in many other ways right now, because of the sensitive nature and the risk involved in capturing the story of Nazarene and her day-to-day activities as she's going through the maze of suppression, trying to do what she does, trying to make sure that her work is heard, not only on a global scale, but in the day-to-day comings and goings of the calls that she gets for help in these trials and in these situations where she is desperately trying to help people, knowing full well what she's battling against every step of the way. And I think that one of the incredible things that I got from the film, I mean, so many things beyond the overriding courage that she shows to stand so strong in the face of this adversity, is knowing full well what she's going up against, that she continues to try, that she continues to strive, that she continues to try and find ways in which to plead her cases, literally, to a court and to a government that she knows the cards are stacked against her, and yet she continues to try, she continues to strive. And so documentaries have an incredible way of telling a story to people who maybe have not always gone beyond the headlines. It takes you into a deep dive of the motivations of the family life of Nasrin and Reza and her incredible family and what they've gone through. And from a visual standpoint, there is that storytelling that is always there. I'm always fascinated, coming from the music side of things, when I hear a song that's attached to a film, uh, how incredible it is when it hits just right, that a 3 minute, 4 minute song can evoke the emotions, can evoke the bravery, can evoke the story that you're trying to tell through that song. So Lynn and Stephen, I just want to start by asking you, because you're no strangers to the art of storytelling in song. Your history goes back to incredible Tony Award winning, musical theater and beyond. I've loved your work for a very, very long time. And I've often talked to composers that sometimes deal in long form, about the idea of then having to give a huge breadth of a story in a shorter, squeeze it all into one song. So when you're approached about writing a song about a story this big and about a person this profound, what are your first instincts as writers going into this? Is there a moment at the beginning where it's like pushing a boulder and then eventually the momentum picks up, or do you feel like there's a spark right away that gets you going and gets the juices flowing?
Well, we were lucky that Jeff and Marcia allowed us to see an early rough cut of the film. And Lynn and I viewed it separately. We didn't even have to discuss, is this something that we want to be part of? We were so amazingly moved by Nazarene and her story that we just knew that we had to find a way to do this, because we just were so impressed. And the other thing is there's also something about writing for a real person, and that was the challenge, because you want it to be specific. You don't want it to be like some vague anthem. This is really about a hero, but basically living a real life. So we felt that we needed to iris down to the specifics and begin with that.
I think the key that unlocked the song were her letters, which Jeff and Marcia shared with us, that were so simple and heroic all at the same time. She's a mother. She has these two gorgeous kids, and she can't be with them. And she's trying to, the letters that moved me the most, I think, were the ones that she'd written to them when they were very young. And she was trying in the simplest way to explain why she had to stay in prison and why freedom was less important than justice and injustice. And I was just so moved by it. And, they always say it's really hard to write a song when they say, write a song for this movie. And, it's something that sums up the movie. This was not something that summed up the movie or even summed up the woman, because that would be impossible. But it was something that stemmed, I think, for me as a lyricist, from her spirit. She's an ordinary woman, but she's a hero. She's a courageous, extraordinary person, and yet she's a simple woman. She's a mother. She has a family. She wants to be with her family. That's nothing out of the ordinary, but what she does with her life is extraordinary. And that just boiled down to the most, for me, just an inevitable lyric. I just couldn't not write what I wrote. It just came out. It just came out that way.
I think that sentiment was one that I found to be the most profound in this documentary, was the idea that the stories. For anybody who's been following her story for many, many years, you see her activism, and you see the power of the work that she's done, and to have an inside look at the fact that she does view herself as first a mom, and that the most important thing for her is that her kids feel the same support and freedom of expression that she is fighting for. And to see her home life, and to see the fact that she, and the wonderful relationship and supportive relationship that she has with her husband, Reza, and the fact that he is, as a man in that country, so unbelievably on board with her vision, and with the idea that her and his daughter should have every freedom that they can have. And so I loved that the nuances of the things that she feels are ordinary, everyday this is what we all should be doing. And somebody who's in a country where we're all, you know, here in the United States, I think we're all trying to grapple with the idea that it's the everyday taking of the steps of just, those can be the heroic actions of just speaking up when you have an opportunity to do so. The things that are seemingly small can seem very, very large, and they can seem large already in a country where you already have, at times, a very sound democracy and all of the freedoms we enjoy, but especially so in a country where that can result in what she is going through now. To my friend Angelique. Yes, sorry. Yes,
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No,
No, I just wanted to add, it's Martin Luther King Day. And, you know, it's like, yes, what better day to be talking about Nazarene? And, you know, we're walking in these people's footsteps. Yeah. We just are. And we take the baby steps. They take the giant steps, you know, but we follow behind and do what we can do. And it just struck me this morning, sorry to interrupt, but, you know, it just struck me, what a great day to be talking about her, really.
Absolutely. Angelique, I wanted you to help me tell the story because I was trying to think back to, we've now met so many times on stage and off stage. I'm trying to think back to the very first moment that we actually met. Was it in the studio?
Yes, absolutely. It was in the studio singing the song of Sade.
That's right, Pearls.
Pearls. Yeah. Was already talking about the difficulty of mothers in Africa that have to walk miles to find water and to feed the children, and the choices they have to go through when they face violence. It is for me, it's this Nazarene song was no brainer when it arrived, and I was like, am I gonna be able really to tell the story of Nazarene with my voice? Because I'm quickly overwhelmed by emotion. And as a human rights defender, in my songs, in my arts, I mean, Josh, we've talked so many times, sitting home, having dinner at my place, and you do what you can also in Africa. Not many people know what you're doing in Africa. Is that it dawned on me that we keep our heroism to ourselves, and we are all heroes. We can do so many beautiful things. When you believe that your freedom matters, other people's freedom have to matter. So for me, Nazarene is a reminder of all of us, to all of us, that when we witness injustice somewhere, as little as it can be, we can't keep quiet. Every time we keep quiet, we give power to the authoritarian. We give power to people that think that they are embodied and they can do whatever they want with people. And her courage, for me, is beyond her country. It's a lesson for our shared humanity. Because I'm a mother. I don't know if I'm going to have the courage to leave my husband and my child alone to fight for other people. But on the other hand, deep down, I know I can and I will. But not many people do that. So we are here talking about Nazarene, and this movie is, I sang the song before seeing any movie, but the lyrics, I was reading the lyrics, I'm like, how in the world can we put a mother in this situation where she can say goodnight to her kids, put her kids to bed, sing lullabies to them, hug them? What world is this? Is this world I want to live in? And the answer was no. So therefore, I knew how to sing the song.
Angelique, you've often, one of the reasons I and so many love you so much is that you've often used your voice, your singing voice especially, to raise awareness for causes. You've been an incredible philanthropist and activist through your foundation Batonga, which is helping girls in your native country of Benin, and through UNICEF and Amnesty International. Have you always felt a responsibility as an artist, as a musician and a singer, to use your platform as a way to express things that aren't always easily expressed to people? I mean, art has that incredible connective language. I found that to be quite inspiring in the film, that art played such a central role in her descriptions of how she best liked to express herself. There were talks of in Ezrin prison of plays going on, of you know, of art being used as a way to express where other things cannot. It talks about how art can break the walls of tyranny. In fact, there was a quote. I actually wrote it down because it was so wonderful. She was accepting an award, and in it she said, "The arts are something I have always envied because they can do things that no other effort can. Art is the best way to take on tyranny." Angelique, I certainly know as well, as somebody who likes to use my platform whenever I can. There's sometimes pressure sometimes to take the easy road, the more neutral road, to be a little bit more of a, you know, the idea, well, if art can unite us and can really tell everybody about just the ways that connect us, then really is there a reason to use the art to talk about the more difficult things? You know, there's a shut up and sing mentality sometimes. They certainly know that when I step over into the line of trying to sing under you know, under the idea of raising awareness or activism for something I believe in fully, I'll get it from both sides. I'll get half the people saying good for you, and I'll get half the people saying, why would you use what you're doing to divide us this way? Don't you understand so many people disagree with you? Why art should be for everybody? Have you always felt a responsibility, I would say, to use your voice for change, or did that come gradually throughout the course of your career?
I was born in a culture that tells story through songs, through storytelling. I learned about slavery through songs. I learned about the resistance of Africans that resisted slavery that you don't hear about, that you don't read about in books, from elderly people. The traditional musicians in my country are the ones that, first of all, make me remind me of what a song means to have to be and what it has to do. Because one day in the middle of the village, somebody died and we have finished the funeral, and we all after then, month passed by and we come back in remembrance. And there was one song, I was like, hell no, I'm not dancing on these lyrics. It's not acceptable. And the reply from my uncle was, your job as an artist not to make people feel guilty, is to lift them up. While the message is sinking, they're dancing. Let them make their own decision to move forward, to do something or not. But that's your simple job, is to tell the story as it is. It will make some people uncomfortable. It will make some people comfortable. If your song don't have those two feelings, so you are not telling the story, because you can't please everybody. There are people that are afraid to leave from the moment they were born. So anything that can rival the security and the fake safety, they're gonna always be vocal about it. And most of the time, people that are afraid to leave, they live in fear. And the only way to exist is to have contempt for other people, to lie, and to live in fear constantly. It's tiresome. It is tiring for me even to watch. Sometimes I don't want to talk because I know it's not going to make any difference. But one thing I learned growing up from my grandmothers is that when you want justice for yourself, you have to want it for everybody. You have no freedom when people are not free. So in the case of Nazarene, why is she in jail? Because she's surrounded in a system, in a political system where the truth is the weapon that can destroy the power. So when you're telling the truth and you're fighting for justice, you expose the weakness, the cowardness, not the strength. Because if you are a leader and you cannot lead without using your power, because once you start using your power, you already lost it. And the problem we have had since we've been on this earth is that we have accepted that our system be built on violence, because violence shows strength. It doesn't show strength. It shows weakness. But we have believed this so far. So it takes people like Nazarene to remind us that violence is a prison, is a jail cell we're building for ourselves, for the future generation. Stand up and speak up. And as artists, that's the role we have. Painting, writing, poetry, whatever we have to do to touch people's soul, to give them that moment of eureka, for them to go, oh, I've lived my whole life in a dungeon, now I want to get out and embrace the world. I want to tell the story differently. And that's what it meant to me to sing that song, because she's a constant reminder for me. Every day I go lay my head on my bed, I always send a thought to Nazarene, because she's in the place where we should all be standing in front of that jail cell in this country and tell them, get the heck out of here. And she took the courage. I mean, you got to sacrifice when you believe deeply in something. Your life don't matter if you have to fight for the larger human being that we share. You have to stand for something, or you fall for anything. And that's the lesson, a reminder for me every day, singing that Nasrin song.
The sense of purpose that you speak of, the idea that when you find that thing that is bigger than any of your, that is bigger than the treadmill, that is bigger than the idea of what you thought was an original goal. For anybody who's seen Angelique in concert, the most incredible thing is I have found, no matter who's there, you'll have people that are in the crowd that have followed you your entire career and can't wait to share that message and get up and dance. And then there will be people who probably have never danced in a concert in their entire lives. Some of them were at my concert, Angelique. we toured together. We toured together.
I made you dance. That's my best moment, was making you dance. I love it.
I was one of those people.
Teach you how to dance on stage. Oh, wow.
You rattle my cage. You got me out on stage. You got me dancing. But the idea, especially now, when we all have, such echo chambers, the echo chambers that we want to have, depending on our particular beliefs, we can surround ourselves with 24/7. We need art like yours, and we need voices like yours to rattle the cage and to give. All you can do is shine the light. All you can do is, like you said, give the information, channel through, and hope that it takes hold. Stephen and Lynn, when you first heard Angelique on your song, what was your reaction?
I nearly fainted. I
had to sit down. I was listening to it because I was walking.
Because we had done a demo, and it was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. We used a friend of ours to sing it. She's a great singer. It was loving. It was emotional and, just sort of flowing. And then we heard Angelique's version, and it suddenly seemed to burst into flames, powerful, bright flames of passion and commitment and anger. And that growl that you do, it was stunning. It was stunning. I actually felt like I had to sit down because it was so unexpected, and so inspiring, wasn't it, Stephen? It was.
It was thrilling. I literally had to physically sit down. The thing that I loved so much about Angelique's version is it was a call to arms. There's no way that you could hear her sing that song and sit back and say, "Oh, that was nice." It was such a call to be active, to activate people, and I love that, and I just thought she absolutely knows what this song is about, what she's singing about, and it's been a beautiful arc to see this song come into the world, because it actually started as a piece of music where I was trying to encapsulate the emotion of Nazarene being separated from her family, and at the same time her work reaching a larger audience, so that was sort of like the emotional arc of the song. And then to see Lynn write this amazingly beautiful lyric that was inspired by the letters, and then to hear Angelique just have liftoff. It was thrilling. It was just thrilling.
The other part of this that comes before was, after we wrote the song, we had to present it to Marsha and Jeff long distance on the phone. And, we've been told that we are not our best interpreters, if you know what I mean. It means we can't really sing very well. And we're banging the piano and singing this song long distance. And I'm going, oh, please, God, let them understand it. But they did. And they obviously, they loved it and put it in the movie. But that was a moment of terror because, you know, to think that it would never go further than our vocal boxes.
It was sort of like Tin Pan Alley, you know, we're just like bang the tune out. But it was very emotional to me because Jeff and Marcia, who had met and knew Nazarene and her family, they felt that it really captured who she was, and like that was always the goal, you know. So I was very happy and relieved, frankly.
And so Jeff,
for me to sing it, I mean, you hear you all saying this, but when I received the song, it took me a couple of days to listen to it, and I didn't come to it immediately because it has to sink in me. And I didn't want to do any research about Nazarene, but because I was so captivated by the words that I tried to put myself in her shoes. What will I do if I was at her place? And when I realized that I would go to jail defending other people's right, I was ready to sing that song. And it's one of the hardest songs I've ever sung, I have to say.
And very quickly before I ask Jeff and Marcia about it, because I'm always curious about the back and forth, especially when we're very virtual right now with music and with art and creation. Oftentimes in my stratosphere, there's been a lot of kind of emailing back and forth, and the idea of, well, we've got an idea for a demo, and then you hear the singing on it, and it changes this and it changes that. You mentioned just how floored, of course, we all are when we hear Angelique's incredible voice and what her, you know, what it brings to a song, and how floored she was by your message and your writing. And all of a sudden, you have that marriage of the three of you. Was there was there a process? Did anything change in as you started to hear each other or sing, or was it fairly quick once you guys met each other and sang with each other? Did it happen very, very quickly?
The song itself wrote itself very quickly. Like once we knew it was going to be focused on these letters and that it was this personal statement, that then it wrote itself really quickly.
Yeah.
You know, then obviously we were tweaking the track and, you know, working with things. I was working with a wonderful arranger named August Eriksmosen, who's done a lot of work in the theater as well as film. And we both knew that we didn't want it to be like fake Iran music, you know. We wanted to go from an emotional place, and then he used a lot of interesting samples to bring that world alive. That basically there was a lot of just small going back and forth talking about the track, and then once we had Angelique's performance, we kind of sculpted things around that.
Jeff and Marcia, as filmmakers, how important is music to your storytelling? I would imagine a huge amount of the process is getting the right shots, getting the right footage, setting up the right interviews, telling the story from a visual perspective and from a narration perspective. How much throughout the process of making a film or a documentary are you thinking about how music, either in the score or in a song that you know is going to be you know, in the ether, when you're doing something like this? Is it something you're striving for? Is it something that's always a pleasant surprise, or is it something that is always from the beginning something you know is going to be a great storyteller for your vision?
That's a great question. I think for both of us, music is very, very important. I think that the auditory experience really lends itself to the emotional experience. I think that it's not enough to watch, because people don't often realize, you know, when you're listening, I think we all know when we listen to a song how emotionally affected we can be. Music is very powerful that way. And I think we both feel that music and getting the right music cues, and Jeff is very, very specific about this, you know, where is the emotion, you know, really making sure that the audience, through what they're hearing, not just seeing, is really feeling and going with the story at that level.
I mean, I adore movie music. And I have the least amount of musical talent of anyone I've ever met. But you know, Bernard Herrmann, Elmer Bernstein, you know, George Delarue, you know, there's just so many wonderful composers who just, you know, there's that extra, and sometimes it's interesting. Sometimes movie scores have several different composers and it changes the whole feeling of the scene, you know? So it's just so vitally important. And so we were really blessed in this film to have a composer, Tyler Strickland, write a beautiful score that's very nuanced and really understands the emotions. But then that totally applies to this song as well. You know, you're talking about the experience that everyone had hearing it the first time. For Marcia and me, you know, we were just in tears. And then we had that same double bump when Angelique performed it. I just want to say one thing about that, which is that I think what's so miraculous is that Lynn and Stephen so perfectly captured an element of Nazarene that I think Angelique embodies. Because, you know, when you talk to Nazarene, and we just talked to her a couple of days ago on Zoom, she'll have this smile that lights up a room. You know, she'll be so funny and so warm and have that energy that just dazzles, that, you know, that energizes you. And then she can be like fierce and determined and unwilling to compromise her important vision. I feel like that's Angelique, exactly. And so that just, all those pieces came together in the song, and we're just so grateful. And by the way, Nasrin and Reza adore the song, and they've become huge fans of all of you. So that's a nice thing.
Lynn's talking about when she first played the song for us, and of course, you know, we were long distance, and I think it was on FaceTime, and I mean, we were crying. It was incredible. I mean, an immediate reaction, and I think, which something, you know, I'm a big lover of theater. I mean, I know Lynn and Stevens worked for years from the theater, and they've written so many extraordinary songs that really stay with you. And I think for me, this was that kind of song. From the very first time I heard it, I couldn't get it out of my mind. It would go in my mind. I could, you know, I could hear it, singing it myself. The lyrics stayed with me. The tune stayed with me. I can't carry a tune either, but yet there it was. And I always find that's such a gift of a, you know, it's kind of like a perfect song that way.
If we had to pay you for every time the song's gone through our heads, you'd be rich.
Yes.
Yeah, right. But that's half your mind. Right?
Tom Hanks once said,
that's not how it works.
Tom Hanks once said about John Williams when he was honoring him at the Kennedy Center Awards that he's incapable of writing a forgettable melody. And I would say the same, forgettable song. I would say the same thing about Stephen and Lynn. Your work has always been profound. It's always so great when you get to hear, you know, as I was mentioning, the long form versus short form, the idea of writing for a film versus a theater. Is it a different process, Stephen and Lynn, for you, or do you go about it the same way as if it were going to be 3 hours of music versus 4 minutes?
Well, no, it's an interesting thing. I always tackle music from the emotional place. So I always think of the character. In this case, the character happens to be, you know, Nazarene. So I start that way. The interesting thing is that when you're developing like a 3-hour evening, it has to do with the architecture of it and the structure, and the smaller arcs, the medium-sized arcs, the larger arcs, and how all the different stories, characters, and themes interlock. When you're working on a song for a film, you don't have the luxury of a giant arc. You have to be very succinct, and you have to be direct, and you have to make your point in 4 minutes. So it was a different kind of challenge.
Every song is like a mini play in a way. It has it has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and there's a dramatic arc to it, ideally. And with this particular song, you know, Stephen sent me the music first, which I love. I love getting the music first. It just speaks to me and helps me. And the opening vamp of the song sounded to me like a woman looking out of a window with bars on it and looking up at the sky. That's what came to me. And then I had read her letters, and I think that the structure of the song became, you know, she looks out, she thinks what to say to her children, she says it to her children, and at the end she signs the letter, and that's like a little play, you know, a little mini play. And I think that, you know, longer forms kind of build on those small moments. But, you know, it's so funny, I was listening recently to our Ragtime album, because I haven't listened to a lot of my albums for 100 years.
One of my favorites of all time, yeah.
But there's a quote in it that E.L. Doctorow put in the liner notes, and it was art is a conversation through the ages. And I thought that was so interesting. And particularly in this case, I started to think about it, and it's what you, Jeff and Marcia just said, which is that, you know, they started with Nasrin, and she inspired a movie, and the movie inspired two songwriters to write a song, and the song inspired a great singer to sing it in her own unique way. And, you know, who knows where it will go? Who knows who it will inspire and what they'll make of it? And I sort of love that idea that we all build on the work of each other and of others and of people in the past, you know, to say something.
That's why I said, as every song is a child. It's conceived 9 months, and then when it comes out, you cannot control what happened, who she met or who he met, and he just go and have his own life. That's it.
That's it.
I love that idea. That'll be my thought of the day. And it's a perfect.
We all parents of our song. We give birth to them, and
That's
then
right.
they impact people in many different ways. And one of the songs of Jeff Josh that have been with me since we worked together is a song that we did in duet. And I was just like, that song just like was in my system. I'm like, yeah, you gotta come out. I gotta give birth to that song differently, and I'm gonna have you in it.
I love what you said earlier, where you spend time with the song, so you get to know it and you get to feel it, and it's sort of like the acting process, you know, where you have to make it come alive, but also you made this song so personal, and just your phrasing and the way you said certain sentences and pushed certain ideas. I just loved hearing that, you know, you spent your quality time before you started singing.
I was angry and sad at the same time. I was like, I wish I could be somewhere where I can do something.
Yes.
And because I can do something, I gotta sing something. So I have to let that anger turn into love, because I couldn't sing it as if I have done it at the beginning, you would not like it, because I just like, I wanted to scream. And I'm like, no, in my anger, there's love. In my anger, I want solution. My anger is gonna drive me to find a way of putting Nazarene words on the table for people to, it's like every time you listen to the song, it's like you are opening the letter of Nazarene and you listening, you reading yourself. And then when I get to that point, from the moment I get to that point, I said to my husband, I'm ready. Let's get to the studio and let's do it. And that's what we did. And he said, you sure you're ready? I say, I'm sure, let's go for it.
Fantastic.
So Jeff and Marcia, you have an extraordinary film. You obviously have an incredible song here, an incredible performance. As Stephen and Lynn were saying, you know, the domino effect of how the artistic process continues to inspire more and more art, more and more awareness. What are your goals, finally, your goals for this film and for the song? First of all, as we all become devastated, not to give away, you know, but the end, but you know, as we all know, as we've read the headlines, that, as you said, she is now going to be going back to prison and has this sentence, this devastating sentence that she has to face now. How is she doing, and what are your goals for this film and for this song going forward now?
Yeah, Nasrin was arrested in June 2018, not for working with us on the film, but
no, of course, no, yeah.
Yeah, but as we were filming, she was representing these amazingly brave women, some who have become well known, some who are semi-anonymous but no less brave, who would go into public and take off their mandatory hijabs, their headscarves, put them on sticks and wave them like a flag. Nasrin had this wonderful statement saying, if you could tell us what we have to wear on our heads, you could tell us what we have in our heads. And so she was defiantly opposing that and was sentenced to 38 years in prison and 148 lashes. She has been home on a very brief medical leave. She has both a heart condition and COVID, which she got in this horrendous prison. As of this morning, she just got a 3-day extension on her medical leave. As of this airing, we won't know whether she's in prison or not. But you know, Lynn was mentioning Martin Luther King, and Nasrin also reminds me of the great John Lewis. And if you think of the courage John Lewis faced when he stood at the edge of Edmund Pettus Bridge and looked at a barrage of armed, officers ready to beat the hell out of him, and he walked right into that line because he knew that that's the way to get his message across. And to me, that's Nasrin going back to prison or doing whatever she has to do, and so many others like her. So our message, what we want this film to do, and the song to do, is to reach as many people as possible through the brilliant work of our, composers and singer, and to inspire through Nazarene a commitment to human rights around the world and to supporting Nazarene personally.
We also we have a website, Nasrin Film, which we hope people will visit, because we've been working very closely with Pan America. There's a petition on there that's been very effective. They've gotten a lot of world leaders to sign on and speak out about Nazarene, and that's really helped. Really is what Nazarene wants. The more we can talk about her, what we can do on her behalf, it is somewhat of a protection for her, actually. And we also have links to a lot of the other organizations that are working on her behalf. And so on the website, you can directly link to them and find out. And you can also find out more about what's going on with her all the time. We update it regularly.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for this extremely inspiring conversation, for this wonderful film and beautiful, beautiful song. As you mentioned, the website people can go to is nazarenefilm.com to get all the information about how they can watch, spread the word, and share the message of her story. One of my favorite shots in the film was when an older woman is standing on a fountain, and she had her hijab on the stick, and she's defiantly, what a life that she must have seen, and she's choosing to take this moment to share. And I think that's a vision that we should all hold with us, that it's sometimes the seemingly small steps that can be the biggest ones, as you mentioned. And I also want to mention a quote that I saw on her office wall that I thought was very, very beautiful and really resonated with the message that you all have spoken about so eloquently today, which is, and it didn't have an author of this quote on it. So if there is one, please tell me. But it said, "Every person's humanity is equal to their sense of responsibility towards the human community," and I think that was an incredible sentiment to her vision. And so I want to thank you all for sharing your humanity and for sharing this film. And to anybody watching right now, please share the film, share the message, share the song. My deep thanks to Jeff Kaufman, Marsha Ross, thank you for making this film. To Lynn Ahrens, Stephen Flaherty, thank you for your musical and lyrical brilliance. And to my dearest friend, Angelique Kidjo, thank you for using your brilliant voice in every way for good and for change. It's been an absolute honor to be here to talk with all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
That's to you too. Thank you.